Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Alolan Ninetales speeds up everything, and Fabien playing those 2 max potions, potentially even able to recycle them with Decidueye's Hollow Hunt GX. That's got to be his game plan, trying to make sure the Shrine of Punishment never stays in play for too long, because that does start ticking over, making those Alolan Ninetales vulnerable, making your Tapu Lele an easy couple prizes here and there if you need it to get opening Lilies going, because he once again is playing the Lily Nest Ball engine rather than choosing to play Professor Elm.
Yeah, and it's looking like Tord is opting for just 3 Oranguru over the 1/1 Striker line that we see popularized in some of the Grambles we've seen on stream. But again, this deck really just utilizes a supporter card in Apricorn Maker, where you search your deck for 2 cards with ball in its name, and that's really how you get this going. You get your Nest Balls early, and then later on when you need to discard your hand down to 0, like, okay, I'll get some Ultra Balls. It'll be really good.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's also playing 2 copies of Mysterious Treasure for certain math fixing, so that's one of the big puzzles for this deck. Can you get yourself down to 0-card hands? Having 2 Mysterious Treasure and 2 Diantha to recycle them means he can do the perfect math fixing pretty much any turn he wants to.
Yeah, sometimes we see cards like Lost Blender or Fiery Flint in this to discard 2 cards as well, but Mysterious Treasure having that option to just discard 1, let's say your hand after an Instruct is an energy that you want to attach, it really helps out with the math. And it's really funny because there is no targets for Mysterious Treasure in this deck.
No, you just play it purely to do your hand math fixing. Another one-off card that Tord is playing that's going to be a big deal is Bodybuilding Dumbbells. Obviously, Fabien's list is about spreading damage counters, and being able to lift up your Pokemon to an extra 40 hit points may make it a little bit tricky for Fabien to take multiple prizes at once.
Yeah, and then one thing that's going to come in handy for Fabien too is that Swampert. It could be just a surprise 160 out of nowhere, but one thing to watch out, it also has 160 HP.
Yeah. He's got to be very cautious with it. Tord might try and target it down if ever he gets the chance to use a Guzma, because the deck is very reliant on that Swampert's power draw. It allows you to keep getting into your energy cards, because you do play some pretty cheeky counts of those just because you need to fit so many Stage 2s into your list.
All right, looking at Tord's prizes, he actually does prize the 1 Bodybuilding Dumbbells there, but it is near the bottom, so his deck is a very fast deck in general, so usually he'll see that, and you really want it later on in the game anyway.
Nothing too awkward for Fabien. A few too many supporters for his comfort, but none of the Rowlets at the very least, and you're going to try and build as many Decidueye up in this matchup as possible, as we see him leading off with a Rowlet up against Tord, who's led an Oranguru.
All right, Tord is going first, and let's get in on this action here. Round 13 now?
We're in 12.
12.
We're in round 12. Tord kicks us off. He's got himself that Nest Ball. Great to go first in any matchup where you can evolve. Also, he might want to try and get that Ditto Prism start down ASAP, because it's such a liability down the road. That might be one of the things he looks for, and it's so versatile that it could literally be any evolution, and it's a great thing to kick off here. Tord always doing the correct things and checking through his entire deck. He wants to know what's prized.
Yeah, this is really what separates the players that do consistently well, is they're able to plan out their game. They see, okay, I have this, this, and this prized. These cards are actually the ones I want to see in this matchup, so I got to make sure that as I play my game, I have access to these cards.
Tord's playing another really interesting card in his list. There's Pokénavs in here as well that can give him extra control over his top decks, which is a really cool addition.
I love Pokénav as a card. Looking at the top 3, you get to take a Pokemon or a basic energy, put it in your hand, and then rearrange the next 2 cards. So you can really set up just a big all-out turn and get your hand down to 0 thanks to Pokénav.
It's phenomenal because Tord's deck plays so few supporter cards that having that early game stability with Pokénav is a great bargain for you, but at the same time it's great throughout the game. We're seeing him here Ultra Balling it away, sure, but it's great options for additional search cards in those awkward early turns before your engine's rolling.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Tord, he had to discard a Granbull with that Ultra Ball as well. Not something you really want to see, but you do have quite high count of Rescue Stretcher and Diantha in your list.
Yeah, he's playing 2 copies of Diantha, Palpad, and 3 copies of Rescue Stretcher, so as long as Fabien is knocking out the Grambles, he has the sort of pseudo-infinite loop with his own discard pile. And we're going to see him here now opting to find himself a Snubble. He has 3 cards which are all playable in his hand, so he can get a full value Instruct for 3 new cards here.
Yeah, one thing about this matchup too is since he's going first against a Decidueye deck, you're not really going to be threatened to get your Snubble knocked out turn 1. So we see a switch in his hand. He's probably just going to play the switch to get the Oranguru out. an Instruct for 3.
Let's see if he can get himself into an Apricot Maker. That's the absolute dream here. Any other basics is going to be fine. Couple of Snubbles. He'll probably only just play down one of these. But seeing that Field Blower and Snubble, not the ideal for Tord. Definitely not going to put him in good stead for next turn.
Field Blower is kind of an awkward card early game in this matchup, just because you want Shrine of Punishment. That's how you're going to manage those damage counters on those big Decidueye GXs. And if you have to get rid of Field Blower by using it on your own Shrine to get your hand down to 0, that's not what you're looking for. Yeah,
definitely a little bit awkward off that Instruct. Not the perfect cards he's looking for at all. Fabien, however, he's able to use his opening Ultra Ball, getting rid of a Max Potion, which is actually sometimes a big card in this matchup, as well as a Rainbow Energy, so he can go for that Wonder Tag. Again, have to stress the build is not using Professor Elm's Lecture. It is a full-on Lily Nest Ball engine here.
Yeah, it's really kind of a race for Tord. He's looking to take prizes as fast as possible. Meanwhile, Fabien has to stay off that and try to just have Feather Arrow take the game away.
He's got himself one Alolan Vulpix. He's got an Alolan Ninetales, so it's a really nice hand to hold on to, in fairness. So this Lily, if he can get some value from and get a few more basics down, is going to be a really excellent turn. He's even got a Grass Energy to attach. You can either use that to protect his Rowlet or just simply retreat into Vulpix to get a Beacon if he wants to round out his turn here.
Yeah, and it is crazy how different these Decidueye lists come from. Like, people just approached it differently. A lot of them go heavy Professor Elm's Lecture, and then this list from the special event, it's where, yeah, I'm just not going to rely on Tapu Lele. I'm going to use these Nest Balls, these Ultra Balls, and I don't really need anything else.
Yeah, the joy of this list is that you put less Tapu Leles on your board, which means you have more Stage 2s and Stage 1s on your board. So it's a pretty simple approach. He's actually Ultra Balled for a second Alolan Vulpix. That leads me to believe he's probably going to end his turn on a really nice Beacon here.
Yeah, Beacon, just such a powerful attack. No energy to use. Search your deck for 2 Pokemon and put them in your hand. Combos really nicely with that Alolan Ninetales GX as well.
He's holding on to one Alolan Ninetales GX already in his hand. He has a rare candy already. He can grab himself a Decidueye GX, as well as it looks like a Mudkip, because there's also a Swampert currently in there as well. This is a really nice start from Fabien.
Yeah, next turn, almost guaranteed that he's going to have 2 Decidueye GX in play, and if Tord doesn't find a way to evolve that Ditto Prism Star, it could be just a free prize.
This is a huge draw from Tord here. Even if it's a playable card, just to give him one more Instruct, because he's got that one nice Shrine.
Oh, it's an Apricot Maker off the top.
That is absolutely huge.
That's exactly what he was looking for.
That's absolutely incredible for Tord. Big break for him. He's got to start puzzling together what he's going to do this turn. Obviously, Apricot Maker's a piece of this puzzle. He can start searching out. Looks like he's grabbing an Ultra Ball as well as another Nest Ball here.
Yeah, it's a little awkward, though, because Tord does need quite a few pieces to get a knockout this turn.
Pretty sure he's going to be Nest Balling for another Oranguru, and this Ultra Ball might be for a Magcargo to start guaranteeing some cards.
Yeah, and then hopefully he'll draw into some more playable cards, and then a Granbull and a Fairy. He'll basically search out whatever he doesn't get.
Yeah, so we are going to see Tord kick things off. He's just considering what to do here. I think you've got to get rid of the Snubble at this point. The ideal board state is always to get 2 Magcargos out, 2 Orangurus, and 2 Snubbles/Granbulls. So we are going to see the Ultra Ball here, getting rid of that Field Blower, and also getting rid of that Snubble, so he can grab the Magcargo. This Nest Ball probably going to go ahead and grab him an Oranguru at this point here, so he can do one sort of blind Instruct, hope that he can find himself a couple playable cards, then he can do a Smooth Over into a second Instruct to guarantee that he gets down to 0 cards.
Yeah, and there's the Nest Ball, looking for a second Oranguru here. It is peculiar that he evolved the Slugma instead of the Ditto Prism.
It's a little bit risky from Tord, going straight for that first Magcargo. It does give him the options to have, from this one Instruct that is, quote-unquote blind. He's not going to Smooth Over first, I don't think. He does have the option to do it in a couple of ways here.
Honestly, he could Smooth Over for the other Magcargo.
Yeah, that's always the way.
This is sitting pretty for Tord right now.
Yeah, so off this Instruct, he wants to find an energy card. He's Smoothed Over, obviously, the Magcargo to the top, so if he can get an energy card, he can use his second Smooth Over just to find himself Ultra Ball and guarantee it.
And that looks like what Tord's plan is. First Instruct, Magcargo, and 2 random cards here. No energy.
Band, Guzma, not great for him here.
Yeah, anytime you draw a supporter off of the instructs when you already played your supporter for a turn, it really just forces your hand into a card like Ultra Ball.
Here comes the second Mag Cargo at least, so that Ditto out of the spotlight. That's Dyson covered up by a slightly tankier Mag Cargo. We are going to see that second smooth over into Instruct, and let's see what Tord's going to grab here.
I like the Rescue Stretcher. It really just takes away cards that might not be as playable later on in the game, especially since Fabien's not really going to take knockouts early.
And we know there's a Gramble in his discard pile as well, so that could be something he wants to pull out immediately. Again, Fabien not really threatening much of an attack, seeing as though he's already had to pay retreat on his Rowlet, and most of his attackers require multiple energy. But putting the Rescue Stretch to the top is always a flexible and useful resource to have.
Yeah, but it's looking like unless Tord draws an energy with this Rescue Stretcher, then he's not really going to be able to cobble together an attack.
No, it looks like there's not going to be any attacks this turn. He's done one Instruct, and he's done both smooth overs. This will be his second Instruct if he wants to even do it, to put the Rescue Stretcher on top. So he might just be evolving into Gramble for the sake of hit points. He could even just leave it on the board, to be honest. He's used Apricorn Maker as his support of a turn. He's going to commit a Choice Band to his active Snubble, and he can Instruct for 2 cards.
Shrine of Punishment along with that
and Rescue Stretcher. Not ideal for him, but at least he can evolve up into that Gramble now, establish that, and be, more or less content for next turn. A couple awkward cards in his hand, but he has both Mag Cargos, both Orangarus on board, so he's set up for the rest of the game at the very least.
Yeah, and it'll be on Fabien to see if he can present a board state that would overwhelm Tord throughout the game. Although with the Guzma in his hand as well, it does apply a lot of pressure on those Decidueye on the bench.
What a draw from Fabien. He picked up that Cynthia from the top, so he's able to simply Rare Candy Decidueye and refresh his hand, choosing not to attach the Fairy Energy to any of his Alolan Vulpix, maybe holding on for later down the line, and let's see if he can draw into any other cards. So that's definitely something to be aware of. If he can get any more candies down, that's always a big deal. Fabien's approach should always be trying to deal with either the Gramble and the Snubble in the same turn, or trying to deal with like multiple Mag Cargos or Mag Cargo plus a Rangaroo in the same turn. These are the sort of things he's going to want to do to try and stop Tord's flow here.
All right, looking like a Alolan Ninetales GX, one of each there, and a double colorless as well, so he could choose and opt to go for some Ice Blade. Yeah. But it is risky because it has 200 HP as well. So with the Shrine of Punishment and that Choice Band already on that Granbull, it could be just a free knockout.
Yeah, I think it's a little too risky when there's that Shrine of Punishment available, so he might just have to settle for another Beacon here. He is going to use Netball, a new item card from Lost Thunder. It allows you to get either a basic grass Pokemon from your deck or a basic grass energy and put it straight into your hand. He's going to grab himself another Rowlet here and shuffle up and see what he wants to do. Looks like he's going to use that Fairy Alolan Ninetales as well. Let's see if he can get any more Decidueyes rolling.
I think that's what he's eyeing down. Ultra Ball Rare Candy off that Mysterious Guidance. Such a powerful ability, especially in these Stage 2 decks.
He's actually going to get rid of 2 Rowlets here, which is a pretty bold move, but it does mean that he can get that Decidueye out guaranteed with the Ultra Ball, Rare Candy straight up into it, and get 2 Feather Arrows this turn.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, no real way to bump that Stadium out, and Shrine of Punishment will put in a lot of work this game.
That's definitely correct. The Tapu Lele already in nice range, and the Fairy Alolan Ninetales is now in play as well. That gets into 190 range with a Choice Band for a Gramble, and you can just see how easily, if Shrine of Punishment stays in play for 1 or 2 turns, everything's in range.
Double Feather Arrow coming down on the Macargo, so we now see Fabien's game plan here is attacking the Macargos.
He could finish off with an Ice Blade, but again, that Shrine of Punishment really denying him that option. So he's just going to commit a double colorless energy to his bench Decidueye GX and finish his turn with a Beacon here.
Yeah, his hand is a little bit awkward, though. He really focuses his draw power on Swampert with that power draw ability, but looking at his hand, it is a Max Potion and the Alolan Ninetales.
Yeah, and he's already played 2 Rare Candies and 1 Fairy Alolan Ninetales onto the board, so it's not going to be easy for him to get that Swampert into play without committing more GXs to his board.
So we could see a big couple of turns for Tord if he can get his hand size down to 0 consistently.
We know that, another Choice Band pickup is pretty nice here. Playable card for him.
Choice Band is pretty good, especially when your opponent does not play any Field Blower at all. And to get rid of the Shrine of Punishment, Fabien really only has 2 Berkeley Hill.
Yeah, that's a big deal for Tord. He's going to start scouting through his own discard pile. You can't make any action with Gramble before you know exactly what you want to do. Because he's got this beautiful setup of 2 Mag Cargo and 2 Oranguru, there's got to be a way for him to figure it out. He's just going to have to decide the route to take.
Yeah, thankfully for Tord 2 is the card he drew in Choice Band is a playable card. So otherwise he could be stuck with a hand of just, I can't really do anything.
That would have been hugely unfortunate. There was only a handful of cards that he could have drawn into that aren't playable, but he's got that Choice Band, and he's trying to figure out the best route to take here. Can he use a Guzma this turn and actually get an attack off with a Gramble for a 2-prize knockout, or is he going to have to settle for a single prize in the active?
Yeah, it's definitely not what you want to do, taking a knockout on that Alolan Vulpix, especially when there is so much real estate on the bench that you want to take out.
So he's got that Fairy Energy to the top here. He can Choice Band Energy the bench, and he could be using the Guzma as well here. He's actually going for the Mudkip, identifying the draw engine of Fabien here, which is a pretty harsh move on Tord's part, trying to make it so that Fabien is stuck with an awkward hand. He is going to commit this Choice Band, I believe, and that means that he can use that first Instruct. He's got that energy now. He's also picked up Mysterious Treasure.
Is a great card to draw here. It really helps just get rid of that Shrine of Punishment in his hand.
I mean, he could just manually attach the active, then use his second Smooth Over just to get Ultra Ball, and Ultra Ball away the Shrine of Punishment and the...
Well, you don't even need to do that. You just Smooth Over for the Grand Bowl.
Yeah, that's also
true. And then put it
true.
on top, you Instruct into the Grand Bowl, and then Mysterious Treasure away the Shrine, and you're at 0 cards.
You're straight on it. You've got it. That means you get to keep that Ultra Ball in the deck for later on for math fixing. So Tord playing through the strokes perfectly with his Gramble archetype here.
And this is where the utility of discarding just 1 card with Mysterious Treasure helps, and that's why he plays 2 copies.
Absolutely. So just that 1 Instruct for 1 card. Look at that. It's a Gramble. Exactly what he needs. And he can Mysterious Treasure away that Shrine of Punishment for another look through the deck, I guess. There's nothing that he can access with this, but of course you do have the option to still look. And he's going to end his turn finishing off a Mudkip here, trying to deny Fabien any draw.
Yeah, it's actually pretty great play from Fabien right here of getting the Swampert. And Tord doesn't know that he doesn't have a rare candy, doesn't know that he doesn't have any other supporter in his hand. If Tord actually just went to attack the Decidueye with the double colorless, it could put a lot of pressure on him, and Fabien might even be forced to play the Max Potion in his hand to get rid of the double colorless. But Tord really playing it safe here and kind of identifying, like, well, if this game goes late, then I'm going to need to get rid of that Swampert.
Fabien put into a really awkward spot now. He does draw into a Choice Band. That's no good in this matchup. We know that much. He's going to allow that Shrine of Punishment to tick over, of course. There's a clock on that for him to get rid of towards Stadium. He's just going to fire away 2 more Feather Arrows onto that same Mag Cargo, and he's going to just settle for a Beacon here. There's not much else he can do.
Yeah, Fabien is kind of putting Tord on a clock as well, because eventually all those Macargos will get knocked out with Feather Arrow, but the real question is can Tord take out those Decidueyes before then?
That's absolutely right. As we see, he's going to grab himself a Fairy Alolan Ninetales and a Mudkip with that Beacon, and it passes back over to Tord with his engine fully intact right now. The Mag Cargo hasn't been taken off the board just yet. You've got to believe that once again he'll find a way to take a knockout. It's just if he's able to get a full combination with something like a Guzma again to keep racing more aggressively. But now that he's taken that 1 prize on the Mudkip, even this active is looking pretty good for the prize race.
Yeah, and Tord drawing Rescue Stretcher there, usually a card that is pretty bad to draw, but thankfully Tord has been discarding a few Pokemon here. The Grand Bolt earlier on that he stretchered back into his hand, and now there's a Snubble where he can just play the Stretcher and shuffle it back in the deck.
So he's also going to use Smooth Over first. Having those 2 cards in hand means that he can do whatever he wants with them, because you can always just do the Smooth Over for the 1 guaranteed card. This might be an opportune moment to use something like a Pal Pad to recycle some of your supporter cards for later down the line, because this is where you sort of have a luxury turn with Gramble. You've almost got a freebie because Fabien's had a slow turn. This is where you can fit in these sort of more cute cards to help you later down the line, while he knows he's got 2 playables already sat there.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Tord, he is just 10 damage shy of taking a knockout on a Decidueye GX this turn. And with max potions in Fabien's list and even just in his hand, he might just take this one prize off this Alolan Vulpix.
Really interesting smooth over, putting a Great Ball to the top of his deck. So I wonder how Tord is going to try and navigate this turn here.
He might just play down his hand, put the Rescue Stretcher, shuffle in the Snubble, Great Ball into nothing, and then attach the energy to the bench Gramble, and then smooth over maybe a Guzma for next turn.
But because he's used one smooth over, he's almost wasted a smooth over if he needs to shuffle in with Rescue Stretcher anyway.
Well, you instruct into the Great Ball.
Yeah.
And then Great Ball, and then Rescue Stretcher.
But there's nothing that you really want to Great Ball.
Yeah.
Because his board's absolutely full, so he's kind of just wasted a smooth over there. But as you said, it's a freebie turn. So unless he wanted to use exactly Pal Pad, I don't think it matters too much because he can still end his turn, 0-card hand, smooth over whatever he wants to the top and still be content. So it is a little bit of strange sequencing there from Tord, but I don't think there was anything that he had to commit to. So he's still going to be okay taking this single prize.
Yeah, the only thing that would be detrimental is if he decides to instruct this turn.
Yeah.
And then draw into cards he cannot play.
I mean, that's pretty wild at the best of times. Looks like this time he's going for a Nest Ball. I think he's just eyeing up the fact that Fabien could just, or is likely to just deal with the Mad Cargo. The Nest Ball, if he doesn't deal with the Mad Cargo, however, is an unplayable card. So I think he's once again tried to put that Great Ball on top.
Yeah, Great Ball, really just a card that you can play without worry. Look at the top 7, pick a Pokemon, but you don't have to.
Tord allowing that Shrine of Punishment to stick in play as well. There's basically nothing he required that turn because everything's on lockdown. There's already 2 Choice Bands, 2 Energies on 2 Grambles, and Shrine of Punishment is already in play, so not much he needed that turn. Finally, Fabien finds himself a Brooklet Hill, which is a nice pickup.
Yeah, and the first Feather Arrow taking the knockout on the Macargo on the bench that had 80, and now with Brooklet Hill, it kind of stymies the damage from Shrine of Punishment, but already 4 damage now. Tord would need 1 more Shrine to actually take a knockout on those Decidueyes.
Fabien is eyeing up a Guzma as well. Potentially there's a way that he can try and deal with the other Macargo in 1 turn. That would be incredible. I think he's already used his Net Ball though, so he couldn't get a Grass Energy. Let's see what he can do with this second Mysterious Guidance. Potentially getting something like the counter gain out could be a good deal for him this turn to get some attacks off. Depends really what's rolling in his hand.
Yeah, well, eyeing down that Rare Candy to get Swampert in play. He's really been missing it here.
Yeah, that's definitely true. He's going to grab that 1 Rare Candy. Also looking at Rescue Stretcher, there are a couple of Rowlet in there at the very least, so that's not a bad shout either.
Yeah,
so
counter gain is pretty awkward in this spot too because you still don't want to attack with these Alolan Ninetales because they're so easy to be knocked out.
Yeah, definitely the case. It might just be sort of a slow Guzma play here. Instead, just to... oh, it's really awkward because he's got so many stage 2s in play and stage 1s that are all sort of in the line of fire that he might just be content to do the Feather Arrow pass, which is exactly what he's had to settle for here.
Yeah, opting not even to Rare Candy into the Swampert, kind of just saving it.
He had to bench the Mudkip this turn.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So Tord, let's see what he's got going with his 2-card hand. He's got to figure out what else he needs. If he can replace the Stadium once again this turn, that's the ideal for him. He's only got 1 Smooth Over to play with now, so also trying to replace a Slugma could be something that he's after.
Yeah, I actually don't see the last Shrine of Punishment. I believe it's in the prizes. It only plays 3.
And there's 2 in the discard pile. There was no Fairy Pokemon knocked out last turn, so this might require Tord to go a different route and go for a Guzma play.
Guzma play on the Tapu Lele or the Ninetales would be pretty good here. Actually drawing the Dunbells, but that could be a great card on Macargo.
Yeah, that could be a great way to protect him. As we see, Fabien is trying to target those down, and there's already 2 Choice Bands obviously committed onto his Grambles, so trying to keep that Macargo as sturdy as possible is a great route to take here.
And remember, Tord is already 2 prizes taken into this game. Needs just 2 GX knockouts. And looking at the board, Alolan Ninetales on the bench and Tapu Lele look pretty tasty.
Those are easily in range for the all-out attack as long as Tord is able to reduce his hand size 2-0. We're going to see the Instruct for 1 card.
And
that's Guzma.
It's looking like it's going to be able to. If he can find a Slugma off of this Great Ball, it'll be probably the best turn. And there it is.
Wow, it's a huge pickup from Tord. Re-establishing his board as best as he can this turn, whilst also taking a 2-prize knockout here, because we know that he's got just that bodybuilding dumbbells and Guzma remaining in hand. He's easily able to deal with one of those bench GXs of his choice and fly down just a 2 prize cards remaining.
Yeah, pretty insane turn from Tord here. Really just planning it out perfectly. And now the thing is, what do I Guzma? You know Fabien had the rare candy and the Swampert in his hand.
I think it's got to be the Alolan Ninetales, because he has to play around Max Potion at this point, because the Tapu Lele will always be in range, even when you do use Max Potion. So I think it's got to be the Alolan Ninetales, because, I mean, Fabien can just clear off the board. Instead, he's going for a Mudkip here, continuing the onslaught of dealing with that engine.
Yeah, basically deciding that if he has access to Power Draw, that means more Max Potions will come down.
That's true. That definitely could be the case. He had the option to be as aggressive as possible there. Tord instead trying to continue to make Fabien draw as poorly as possible.
And I think that play is pretty good, especially since he got the Slugma on the bench. He kind of set it up to where I don't have to worry about just in case my Magcargo gets knocked out.
That's definitely the case. So we're just going to see 2 more Feather Arrows. Fabien trying to get through a bodybuilding dumbbells Magcargo, which feels like a fairly futile effort. He's spent 1 Max Potion this turn, and it's down to Tord again. Now he has spent both of his Guzmas, so potentially trying to navigate Palpad to the top of his deck and trying to recycle that, maybe his route here. Or he could settle for just doing 60 damage this turn and set up his hand otherwise, because essentially this turn, if you can't take a knockout on the active Decidueye, 60 is the same as doing 190.
Yeah.
Let's see Tord looking through his deck as always. Looks like he's going to put that Rescue Stretch to the top so he can recycle to get back into that 2 Magcargo ball position that we love to see in a Gramble deck.
Yeah, it's crazy how consistent this engine is. And when you think about it, you would tell like your opponent or your friend playing like, yeah, I just play the game without a hand, really. you think they're insane.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive to almost every card game that we know. It's just that it's such a powerful attack to try and chase that you try and make it work.
There is the Apricorn Maker searching for 2 ball cards in Tord's deck.
Grabbing himself, looks like Great Ball and Ultra Ball if he needs them. As we say, if he can't take the knockout this turn, which it looks, pretty unlikely, now especially that he's used an Apricorn Maker as his supporter of choice, he could just settle for doing 60 and have these cards in hand to do math fixing down the line.
There is the second Smooth Over as well. Could put a card like Palpad on top of the deck.
Here it comes. He's got to recycle those 2 copies of Guzma if he wants to close out this game on some big GX Pokemon.
And you might be thinking, wouldn't he want to use Palpad this turn? He could have, but next turn it's basically the same with Smooth Over.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And as we keep stating, he's spent his supporter this turn, can't take a knockout. 60's okay. He could end his turn on a big hand if he wants to.
And it's looking like that's what Tord's doing. Nothing you wouldn't expect from one of the best players in the game.
Finally, Fabien finds himself a Swampert. Big power draw. Let's see what it can get him into. Couple energy cards, which he has been whiffing for a little while. Not much else, though. A Guzma potentially available, but no real attack again coming down from him. His entire damage this game has come from Feather Arrows.
Yeah, unfortunately, missing that counter gain now would have been pretty sweet here to spread some damage with Alolan Ninetales GX.
He does commit that Fairy Energy to the Alolan Ninetales, which has 200 hit points currently. All of Tord's stadium cards are inaccessible, so Fabien's going to have to go for, once again, a stalling play here, promoting his Tapu Lele, which is in range of a knockout, but just hoping that Tord can't find a switch card at this point as he continues to go for the Magcargo.
Bodybuilding dumbbells putting in a ton of work here for Tord, and it's basically played out perfectly to how he wants.
And look at that, the Palpad, a perfect opportunity to use it here so he can move his own Magcargo out of the active position, because he's going to recycle the Guzmas right about now. He could even just play the Great Ball down next, then smooth over the Guzma to the top, then play the Guzma, then instruct again and use Ultra Ball to guarantee him that knockout on a GX Pokemon here.
It is crazy how much thinking you have to do with this deck. It's so innocuous, but it really takes a lot of thought.
Yep, so the Great Ball's been played. Now he can shuffle again. He might be trying to get a draw in before Palpad. But I feel like Palpad's the move here, where you just get back your Guzmas. Yep, Torch getting them to the top. We know he can guarantee it if he takes the right line here.
Yeah, and the thing about this play, he'll be able to take a knockout on the Decidueye GX on the bench with 60. That also means the Magcargo on the bench with 100 damage is safe next turn.
That's absolutely so powerful for Tord. He's in such good shape now. He's just going through the motions. Does he want to smooth over first so that he can get himself the Guzma to the top and then do a smooth over again and get a bad card to the top of his deck that he can Ultra Ball away painlessly? I feel like that seems to be the best route here. So yeah, Tord is going to go ahead, grab himself that Guzma off the top. Instruct number 1 can grab that, then he can smooth over a second time and put, you know, the most useless card in his deck into that discard pile with the final Ultra Ball here.
Yeah, definitely looking probably like a Snubble.
Yeah, maybe a Snubble, maybe just one of those ball search cards, maybe a Nest Ball, something like that. Maybe even a Diantha at this point, because it feels like Fabien's never trying to knock out a Grand Ball.
Yeah. And there is the Guzma off the top.
Wow.
Actually eyes down
again.
the Swampert.
He does not like power draw. He's the man who loves trade, and when he sees that power draw, he never wants anyone else to have the cards.
Basically, Tord is saying, I have to play with no hand. I'm going to make you play with no hand as well.
If I got none, you got none too. Tord using his second smooth over now. And I think it was the Diantha actually that he took. I'm not sure.
Apricorn Maker, I believe.
Apricorn Maker. Yeah, that's also a card that he doesn't necessarily need too much right now. So, targeting down Swampert.
Especially if he's gone through most of his Ultra Balls. Then it's really a bad card.
Instruct away the worst card in his hand. Also gets rid of a Snubble. He can find himself a Pokemon, but he's obviously not going to, because he needs to knock out this active, putting him down to 2 prize cards. He's taken a slower and more progressive route here, but it's meant that Fabien has been limited to Feather Arrows the entire game.
Yeah, and this does mean with the Decidueye GX staying in play, that the Magcargo will probably get knocked out thanks to Feather Arrow. But it'll be interesting to see what Fabien can actually draw here.
Fabien promoting that 60 damage Decidueye.
Acerola, a really good card, but there's so much damage on his board that there's multiple knockouts to be taken.
That's completely true. He's going to try and use that Brooklet Hill. Looks like no targets being chosen here. What else can he come up with? He's got that double colorless on the Alolan Ninetales. He's going to bring up the Magcargo, potentially his final stand here.
This is going to be a knockout on both of the Magcargos, and the double Decidueye here really paying dividends toward losing both of his Magcargos this turn, since he went for the Swampert.
That was really big from Fabien. Maybe his way back into this game toward losing both Magcargos in one foul swoop.
It'll be interesting, though. Did he get the Shrine of Punishment from the prize? He did, and that is a knockout for game. He got the perfect card from the prize that he needed.
And even the perfect top deck.
Yeah, Great Ball, Fail Search, all right. Knockout.
Wow, big prize from Tord to clinch the game, even though Fabien tried at the very dying seconds to deal with that engine all in one go. That's got to be what he has to do in the next round, because that's definitely his route to victory.
And that's where Alolan Ninetales GX really shines, is it's just a natural combo with this Decidueye GX.
And you can't allow Tord to keep using Diantha as well. He'll always win the Stadium War. He'll keep getting back Choice Bands. He'll keep getting back every target he needs if you allow a Gramble to use their Diantha. So not only are you targeting the engine, but you're also hurting their, one of their only supporters that they play.
And that's so heartbreaking, too, because there was a lot of cards Tord could have drawn that just didn't do anything.
He did his best. He did that one Ultra Ball to get rid of one of the supporter cards in his deck, but he still could have drawn into a couple of Diantha, stuff like that. He still had his Instructs available to him, but that was just, more and more risk comes with those Instructs. So he was pretty fortunate there to get that one Shrine finally out of those prize cards.
Yeah, just came at the perfect time. And now we're going to see a Game 2. Fabien does get to go first, though.
He does get to go first. That's a big deal. If he can start getting some Decidueyes on the board untouched, that's going to be a really big deal for him. There's only about 20 minutes on this clock, and we saw how slow a matchup it can be if Fabien misses out on energy cards. So it's going to be really on to him to try and get that Swampert developed. Tord tried to access it every single turn that he could, making sure that Fabien can never draw cards. And that's one of the big weaknesses of the Decidueye Ninetales archetype. It's plays so few energy cards that if you don't have a Swampert going, you're just not going to draw into them a lot of the time.
Yeah, never really got to attack except for that very last turn there. Counter gain will probably come into play again. It's just Fabien really trying to go for that Swampert and not really having the draws to really get it in play, with Tord just attacking those Mudkips.
So let's see how Fabien does start. Not playing that Professor Elm's lecture, so there's always the question mark of how many basics he can get out with that Lily Nest Ball engine. So it's going to be down to him to try and get a good lead. Can he start with one of his Alolan Vulpix as well? That could be another great thing for him. Even when he goes first, it's great to have it in the active because you can start committing energies to it and start doing Snowy Winds from the offset.
Oh, wow. Tord's hand is looking pretty sweet. I think I see 3 Great Ball and an Apricorn Maker.
Oh boy, that is excellent setup for him. He has prized one of his Diantha, the Field Blower, the Snubble. Nothing too dangerous for him.
Diantha's actually better in your prizes because you don't want to see those, especially when your opponent's not taking knockouts on Grand Bull.
1 max potion in the prize cards for Fabien. We saw how it bought him a little bit more time on one of his Decidueyes, so that's a little bit awkward.
Yeah, 2 Lily as well, and he starts off the game with Ultra Ball discarding a Lily and a Tapu Lele, meaning he does have a Lily in hand, but most of his draw supporters are going to be a little anemic throughout the game.
That's going to be definitely something we need to keep an eye on as we do progress. He's going to instantly go ahead, grab that Mudkip. He wants to start drawing cards.
There's a double colorless coming down, and his hand is looking pretty sweet right now. Depends what 6 cards he draws off this Lily.
We're looking for Nest Balls, we're looking for Rowlets, we're looking for Alolan Vulpix. That's all Fabien cares about.
There is another rare candy Decidueye and an Ultra Ball as well, but not really wanting to commit the Ultra Ball here because next turn he can get Swampert and Decidueye in play.
2 stage 2s out on turn 2, then a follow-up Cynthia.
Who needs Alolan Ninetales?
We are going to see back over to Tord. As you mentioned, he's led that Ditto. Seeing as though Fabien only got 1 Rowlet down, that's a little bit safe. It could only get knocked out by an attack now at the very least. And as you mentioned, Oranguru on the bench, lots of Ball Search cards in his hand, and he can use the Apricorn Maker first for double Nest Ball. He could start firing away the Great Balls before using these as well to give himself higher odds.
Yeah, you always want a Great Ball first before playing the Nest Ball because more Pokemon are in your deck. So if you are needing all your basics, Great Ball, all right, well, I found an Oranguru. Now I don't need to get an Oranguru with this Nest Ball.
Tord, once again, being meticulous, taking his time and making sure he knows what's in those prize cards. He'll be pleasantly surprised by how little important things are in there. He's got his full Magcargo line in there. He's got just 1 Snubble in the prizes, so grabbing these Nest Balls and shuffling up because you know he's got plenty of Great Balls to fire off.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
We'll see. Maybe they are. He's looking for Slugmas. He's looking for Snubbles. Anything's good at this point. Just any basic Pokemon he can get from these Great Balls are going to be fantastic. And obviously he can sit on stage 1s even if he draws into those. So
first Great Ball here, top 7.
It's like Sycamoring for a Pokemon, and wow, plenty in that one.
Yeah. Does have option between Snubble and Oranguru. Again, you want 2 of each of those Pokemon out.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Because he has so many playable cards, the Oranguru, you know, it could be getting him 3 cards guaranteed, but he already has those Nest Balls anyway, so he can get whatever pieces he wants. He just wanted to see any target there.
Yeah.
So Snubble coming onto the board. More Great Balls to fire off.
Such an awkward card to play multiple of because you look at the top 7, pick one, then you have to shuffle, and then you just look at the top 7, pick one, you have to shuffle.
Second Snubble, he's got to be happy with that too.
Yeah, as long as you hit something, then he's going to be happy. Don't worry, Fabien. 1 more Great Ball is coming down.
He just has to sort of look at his hand. He's playing his own hand quite casually now. Tord wouldn't be any the wiser that he's got a double stage 2 rare candy combo coming down next turn.
Just like, wow, 3?
The stylish throwdown of that Great Ball. Sometimes you just have 3.
All right, here we go. Looks like a Magcargo and a Gramble. Not bad here.
He's eyeing up which one to take. Looks like the Magcargo might be the safest choice, so he can, you know, evolve that Ditto, and then, or if he Nest Balls for another Slugma, which is also likely, he can have the Smooth Over available to him from the offset.
This turn 1 hand has been pretty insane from Tord here.
Nest Ball number 1. He's already got 2 Snubbles in his hand. He can Nest Ball for Slugma, Oranguru, and once again, he's in that really nice board state.
Yeah, and not being threatened really by much Decidueye. Granted, if Fabien does find the 1 of Grass Energy, I believe.
Yeah, he plays 1 Grass Energy and 1
Rainbow.
Netball and 1 Rainbow that's actually in the prize cards.
And then 1 Super Boost as well. So if he finds one of those, Razor Leaf could take a quick knockout on this Ditto, but it's really going to have to rely on the Cynthia and the Power Draw.
We are going to see Tord completely fill his board turn 1. That is the absolute dream of a Granbull player. He has Instructs on top of that if he wants to use them, but because he's got Energy, Bodybuilding Dumbbells, and Magcargo in his hand, he could just not do any Instructs here and hope that he can navigate his hand next turn so that he can get an all-out rolling.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see what option Tord decides. You really just have a ton of options with this deck to try to get your hand down and plan your next turn.
So, Tord now, a full board. He could start committing cards and just getting as many draws as possible. Don't think that's a bad decision. He's going to attach 1 to that Snubble at the very least. Instructing, or he's thinking about whether or not he wants to. Yeah, he's going to instruct for 1 card. Gets himself a Pokénav. That's no bad thing at all.
Yeah,
that could
set
be very
up your
flexible.
draws for next turn.
Yeah, very, very flexible card.
And here we see Pokénav first appearance on stream here this weekend.
So awesome to see.
Apricorn Maker, Granbull on top of the deck. You can put Granbull in hand and then Apricorn Maker, and with the Magcargo, you are pretty much set here.
That is absolutely phenomenal stuff for Tord. A really nice top 3 that he can navigate perfectly. He can play he can put the Granbull to the top because he could instruct it straight away if he wants to, or he could just sort of leave it there. He has the Apricorn Maker as the follow-up. So, yeah, absolutely solid stuff from Tord here. Hesitant to commit his bodybuilding dumbbells, rightly so, as Fabien could try and pick off anything on his board. But here we're going to see double stage 2 action.
Yep, Ultra Ball coming down. Swampert hits the board, this time much earlier than last game. And maybe that will be the difference maker here.
Ooh, stylish turn 2 from Fabien. Decidueye and Swampert coming onto the board. Is he able to get a Grass Energy on top of this? Even if he can't, he may just go for like a Feather Arrow on the active and pass, leaving Tord the sort of headache of having to evolve the active into a Granbull. That means he only has access to 1 Magcargo. So even with, you know, a slight off-pace beat here, he could still make it awkward for Tord. He's still, once again, just looking for multiple basics this turn.
Yeah, Tord does have access to 1 switch in his deck as well. So not really much Guzma play going on with the Apricorn Maker on top of his deck, but if the switch is in his deck, it could prove fruitful here. And,
1 Nest Ball only, it looks like. A few Ninetales, really
Cynthia
awkward
was
draw.
a pretty bad draw.
He's going to do the power draw before using the
Grass
Netball.
Energy either.
Oof, this is really rough. He's been able to power draw into the Alolan Vulpix, obviously doing that before your Nest Ball because you have more live targets before using it. Grabs himself a Rowlet now. He can commit a double Colorless Energy if he wants to, because he does have Ice Blade. He does have Hydro Pump as a potential attack as well with Swampert. So this isn't a dead energy, but it's not ideal for a Razor Leaf this turn.
It also has that counter gain hiding out in his hand, but discarding the 1 Fairy Energy in his deck as well kind of puts a little strain on attacking with the Fairy Alolan Ninetales at least.
It may be even that Fabien wants to pay retreat and reattach a double Colorless Energy to the same Decidueye and go for a Beacon play.
It's looking like he just passed the turn there to Tord. Tord drew the Apricorn Maker.
Right. He's hoping that it's going to be difficult for Tord. He knows that there's going to be a Granbull and a Magcargo in his hand, though, so he's got to anticipate the worst here. And if Tord can navigate somehow to... Even once again, there's even the option to get a Guzma on this Swampert. I think if he can navigate his turn correctly, he could still evolve this Ditto into a...
Guzma on Swampert would be brutal here.
Yeah.
Looking at Fabien's hand, not really having much going on for him, and he discarded that Tapu Lele early, so even an Alolan Ninetales Mysterious Guidance for maybe an Ultra Ball is no out for him.
Really awkward Tord now. I just saw him massaging his brain.
Going deep in the tank, Tord.
He's trying to figure out how can I get the best turn. He's going to start off with 1 Smooth over here. He's getting himself that switch. Switch indicates to me that he's trying to be safe here. get some damage on the Zoroark. He's also eyeing up that other Mag Cargo, of course.
I think he was just identifying that the switch was in his deck.
Yeah, because that might be another piece to his puzzle here to get attacking this turn.
But that Swampert on the bench does look pretty good to knock out here for Tord. We saw him go for it aggressively multiple times game 1.
Yeah, it's definitely a big route, and you're seeing how awkward Fabien's hands have been. That initial Cynthia was just, nothing helpful at all. The power draw got him into another basic Pokemon to give him some sort of board.
And he drew a Magcargo off the top of the deck.
And now he's got the option to grab that switch if he needs to. And he's just debating it now. Smooth over. He's got his ideal board state. That Ditto becoming a Magcargo, so great for him. And once again, we might see him using that bodybuilding dumbbells on one of these Magcargos to try and protect them a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely just such a great utility card that Fabien cannot really move from the field once it's there.
Tord going to use his last instruct, grabs him that one copy of Switch, and he can use Apricot Maker. He can just grab, one Ball Switch card. He can grab nothing if he wants to, but he could just grab Great Ball to try and hit a Gramble. That's probably his best move here.
Yeah, the one Great Ball left for Tord after playing 3 turn 1.
The dream is to find himself a Gramble.
Well, I mean, I think that's all that's in his deck, right? I guess Snubble and a Slugma.
Yeah, because he has to play the Switch. He doesn't have to play the bodybuilding dumbbells. He could grab like the Nest Ball and an Ultra Ball and then sacrifice the bodybuilding dumbbells, but it felt so important last game.
Yeah.
Bought him a few more turns of smooth over. So it feels like just trying to get this last Gramble out of Great Ball means he's fully set up.
All right, does he find the Grand Bull here, hitting 4 for 4 on Great Ball in the first 2 turns of the game?
There it is.
Wow.
Got that Gramble. He's got the dream setup going. He's getting a knockout. Oh, no, sorry, he's not getting a knockout, but he's doing 160 damage to the opponent's active here.
Oh, I think they're trying to see if he benched the Snubble, but he did not. He had the full board turn 1.
Yeah, the combination of lots of Great Balls and Nest Balls on turn 1 was how that Snubble came to be. And this Great Ball finding him Gramble. Going to be a really ecstatic turn for Tord, as his board is absolutely flourishing now. Able to switch that Magcargo and hit 160 damage on Fabien's Decidueye GX here.
Yeah, it could put a big decision on Fabien here. He has that Acerola in hand as well as a Rare Candy, but that means 3 Rare Candy down if he chooses to go that route.
And here comes a big all-out for 160 damage. Let's see if Tord can draw into. He does have an Acerola. He could undo some damage, but also Feather Arrow is one of his main means of getting any output. He's actually going to trade away, power draw away the counter game, which is really interesting.
Yeah, but he drew into the Max Potion, having one prized, just one other in the deck for Fabien here. Pretty big turn for it as well.
He's going to fire off a Feather Arrow. He could Acerola and use an Ice Blade this turn. That's what we're going to see. Definitely moving Vulpix into the active. He can reuse that double Colorless Energy. Here comes the Water Alolan Ninetales. It means that Tord has to find himself a Shrine of Punishment in addition to a Choice Band next turn if he wants to get... Well, that doesn't even get a knockout because the Shrine would only put it down to 200 damage. So Tord basically has to gust this Ninetales GX out of the way next turn.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
there we go. Ice Blade knockout on the Magcargo. A pretty good turn from Fabien here.
That's a really solid turn. Tord in this really awkward spot. So either he has to try and navigate away into gusting and taking a knockout on a bench Pokemon, or he has to settle for just poking for 30. He can't afford to do an all-out and put himself in range of an Ice Path GX attack.
Oh, and this is kind of an awkward draw. Rescue Stretcher would be really good to get that Slugma and put it down, but you also need the Magcargo that's in the discard. So you want to think about, well, I can do the Slugma, put it down on my bench right now, but then I need another Rescue Stretcher to bring back the Magcargo, or I can shuffle it into my deck, hope to draw into maybe like a Nest Ball to get the Slugma.
It's always going to be a little bit awkward as Tord tries to balance re-establishing his board whilst also trying to put some pressure on the Ninetales as well. He is eyeing up that Shrine of Punishment. Maybe that goes in combination with an all-out not doing the full effect, because then even if Fabien's going to do like a max potion play, the Shrine would still stay in play, so it's not like he could just recycle the same turn that he did last turn. So Tord trying to play around as much as he can here.
Yeah, meanwhile, looking at Fabien's hand, he has pretty much the perfect setup for this situation, having Brooklet Hill that he opted not to play last turn, very smartly, by the way, and then Max Potion and another replacement double colorless.
Tord looking through the discard pile, seeing, man, you've already played 3 rare candies. How many more Decidueyes are you going to be able to achieve this game?
Yeah, it might kind of force his hand later on to hollow hunt for a couple rare candy.
Yeah, something like 2 rare candy and a max potion, something along those lines may come down into play later down the line. Tord here looking through both players' discard piles, making the most of his time, of course, and he still has to figure out how to navigate the rest of this turn. Looks like he's got a Snubble in his hand. Got an Apricorn Maker as well. Oh no, it's a Shrine of Punishment, excuse me. He's just put that to the top. That's going to come into play. He's also eyeing up Pal Pad, it looks like, as he has a couple Apricorn Makers in there.
Yeah, this could be kind of his setup turn, where I'm going to put a lot of my resources back to make sure that I can take a lot of knockouts in the coming turns.
Apricorn Maker is still such a useful card and in this stage of the game, because he wants to access more Ball Search to re-establish that Mad Cargo once again. And Tord definitely not wanting to do the full damage output with All Out this turn. It just plays too easily into Fabien's hands, but also recognizing that the Shrine is an important piece here, so that Fabien can't just double colorless energy and reattach double colorless. Oh, sorry, max potion and reattach double colorless energy.
Oh, wow. This is actually a pretty good draw here from Tord. Remember, he's not going to do the full all out, so his hand was Choice Band, Shrine of Punishment.
That's really good for him. That can keep that stadium back into play, going back into his turn. So even though Fabien's going to, bounce the stadium this one, he can reestablish it.
There is the 4th rare candy, Decidueye GX hitting the board. Fabien's setup is now fully accomplished, and he's able to do 90 damage a turn with Ice Path, or with Ice Blade.
Yeah, and we're going to see that exact play, double colorless reattached after a max potion. This Alolan Ninetales GX so awkward for the Granbull players to deal with, especially that Fabien is being as aggressive as possible on these Slugmas. He's just going to do the Ice Blade for 50, and looks like he was reaching for a prize card here. I think he was thinking about the old Slugma's hit points.
Yeah, this new Slugma having 80 HP here.
Oh boy, that could be a huge misstep here.
Yeah, it could just mean another smooth over for Tord for this turn. Having that Shrine of Punishment, and oh, it looks like time was actually called.
It feels like that is time.
And with Fabien not being able to take a prize that turn, he really would just be set back and not really be able to finish the game.
Yeah, so Tord is able to win this series 1-0. Very impressive play with the Granbull deck. You do have to be very methodical and very creative at times with how you're going to play a card to draw more cards, to play down more cards and end up at 0. But Tord's found a way to make it work for him, and he's been able to overcome sometimes what is a very awkward matchup.
Yeah, it looked like there he finally found the answer to it in the matchup, but Bodybuilding Dumbbells putting in a lot of work as well.
Really nice tech card. I've seen some Granbull players dropping it, but it can be so good in mirror match situations. It can be very good against other non-GX archetypes like Malamar, and even here, protecting your Mad Cargos, because that's the engine.
Yeah. It really just Tord put on a clinic of how Granbull should be played and how it works. And sitting now at 27 match points, I believe.
Tord is looking in good shape all over again.
Yeah, 3 rounds left to go, and needing at least, I think, 2 wins to kind of secure a spot, or at least be in the mix.
Yeah, that definitely sounds about right. A couple more wins and he's right on up there. Fabien, his deck is so creative and great to see when it is flourishing, seeing all those stage 2s online, but